Hi, I'm Willem Dafoe, and we're going to do this nutty thing where we go through my IMDb page.
Let's jump right in. First credited movie.
Heaven's Gate?
Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate I was fired from. It was basically my first job. I was standing in a lighting setup. Someone told me a joke. I laughed out loud. Michael Cimino didn't like that. He turned around and said, "Willem, step out," and that was it.
To Live and Die in L.A.
A great character, an artist, counterfeiter, criminal. They taught me how to counterfeit money.
What does that mean when you...
And we give it to the prop department, but you steal a little bit and see if you can pass it.
Was it passable?
Very little, but yes.
Last Temptation of Christ.
It took a lot to get me on the cross. Once I got up there, I could only be up there for so long because you're in this isometric where you're like this. I'm also naked. They're shooting a very wide shot, and I'm like this for a while. My penis goes out from between my legs. Marty's like, "Someone fix that!" There's only all these Roman stuntmen, real macho guys, and they're like, "I'm not touching that thing." Finally, a very sweet guy from the costume department gets a little ladder and goes up there and tucks it in, and we were good to go.
1986, something called Platoon?
The training we did was crazy, and it was serious, and we were on board. That made the success of the movie because we learned how to do soldier things. We were taught by vets that had a real stake in us looking good. Crybaby.
You slapped Johnny Depp's butt in that movie.
I do.
Does he have the goods, or what are we talking about?
You know.
Body of Evidence.
Madonna was at the height of her popularity. She had some really sex-filled videos at the time.
Anything to know about the hot wax in that movie?
It was hot.
These are IMDb movie keywords. You tell me what the movie is. Cigarette smoking, murder, forbidden love.
Forbidden love. I don't know.
Wild at Heart.
Oh.
Tell me.
Horse chase, jumping through a window, male nipple.
I don't know.
John Carter from Mars. There are male nipples all over that movie.
It's true.
Heist, hacker, collision course.
Oh, that's easy. Speed 2. Totally different kind of movie. Of course, the fundamental problem was the boat was too slow. People really give me a hard time for it being over the top and all that. It's what it's supposed to be. There's no way, any way that you could have done it otherwise.
Behind the scenes, bald man, breast massage.
A breast massage? That's not Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of a Vampire, that's what it's listed.
Wow. Well, that's not how I think of the movie, but I got it, didn't I?
Why don't we take a look at the trademark section of your IMDb page?
This is so subjective. Low-key, yet gravelly voice, sometimes. Psychotic, unstable characters, sometimes. Characters that often meet a grim fate, often. Prominent cheekbones, always. Almost always. Deeply lined face that can be contorted to frightening effects.
Manderley.
My first Lars von Trier movie. He said to me, "Let's meet to talk about your character." He said, "Do you like to swim?" I went out there, 7 o'clock, there's ice on the water. He takes off all his clothes, so I take off all of mine. We jump in, it's so cold it makes your heart stop. You get out, he says, "Okay, great, I'll see you tomorrow." That was our conversation for the character.
One keyword, talking fox.
That's easy, Antichrist.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Both.
Well, Antichrist would have been talking fox / pubic hair /
Okay. He wanted these close-ups so you would really see genitals. And he didn't want it to be ours, so he got some adult film actors. My guy was Horst. He chain smoked. He was a big German guy. When I met him, he shook my hand and he said, "Hello, I'm Horst. I hope you like my size. I hope you like my style."
And did you?
Next, Florida Project. This is what's up right now. I saw Sean Baker's film Tangerine, and I thought, this is a guy to watch. I knew it was going to be a neo-realist approach. The script is strong enough that we shoot the script, but also when we see opportunities, we do other things as well.
The scene with the birds.
Yeah, totally invented. Those birds, you can't touch them because they're protected, but we don't want them on the... Willem, go out there and do something with them. Hey, Alexis, follow him. Like this.
You know, a lot of your characters end up dying in these movies.
Do you die or not die? To Live and Die in L.A.
I get shot and I get put on fire.
Platoon,
Lots of bullets.
Mississippi Burning,
No die.
Trying for the Spirit,
No die.
Wild at Heart,
Yes, big time.
Flight of the Intruder,
They drop bombs on me.
Shadow of a Vampire,
I'm burned by the light.
Spider-Man,
I get skewered by a glider.
Triple X. I think you're again exploded by a bomb dropped on you or something.
Maybe I
aren't you?
am. I die bad in that one. I get shot pretty bad. I get my throat slashed in a really nasty way.
Daybreakers,
I do, and then I come back.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Rat doesn't die.
Yes, he does.
right?
He's the only one that does.
Last Temptation of Christ.
I sort of die in that one.
Well, there's your IMDb page. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Well, that was part of my IMDb list.
Ears to the ground, noses in your business. FOD TV BC News. I'm a beefy little boy.
You're watching Funny or Die TV.
My name's Danny Trejo, and I'm going to go through my IMDb right here.
Do you have any idea what your first listed credit is, according to IMDb?
First official gig was Runaway Train. Eddie Bunker knew I used to box. We need somebody to train one of the actors how to box. And I said, what's it pay? And he says, $320 a day. I'll never forget that, $320 a day. I said, how bad do you want this guy beat up? When I saw my first check, I'll never forget. This is more money than I ever made in a robbery. Right there, I said, shit, I'm gonna be an actor.
The Hidden?
Yo, hippie, what kind of dude are you? There was an alien. He was shooting us in jail. The director said, Danny, yell something. Yo, hippie, what kind of dude are you?
Something called Drug Wars.
Camarena Story, that was with Michael Mann. He gave me a hell of a compliment because when we did this scene, he said, I don't know if you know what an Emmy is, but that was an Emmy performance. I didn't know what he meant. I thought, oh, okay, cool, M&M's.
Guns.
With Eric Estrada and 3 different Playboy bunnies. That's when I knew I made it.
That's the first couple years of your career, but maybe this is where the Danny Trejo traits are starting to develop here, what you're known for.
Usually plays criminal in one form or another, assassin, prisoner, etc. That could be true. Very muscular, physical, with many tattoos, and no steroids. Long hair, often worn in a ponytail. Wow, these are pretty right on. Rough, scarred face. Yeah, I will say that. Chicks dig scars. Mustache. The first time I was ever really interviewed, she says, Danny, don't you think you're being typecast? Oh, what do you mean? That's what? Well, you're always playing the mean Chicano dude with tattoos. And I thought about it, and I said, well, I am the mean Chicano dude with tattoos. Go with what you got, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't make a good car salesman. Buy this or I'll kill you.
Ground Zero, Texas? Well, that's a video game. That must be a voice.
I don't remember it. But...
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Desperado.
Wow, Robert Rodriguez. I walked into his office and he looked at me and said, wow, you look like the bad guys in my high school. And he just handed me a knife and said, here, twirl this. I got so good at twirling that knife, I got on a plane to Texas, twirling that knife. I got a knife, and I'm twirling it. Just went through the whole deal and nobody said shit.
Next up, Heat.
That movie was unreal. I'll just never forget, Val Kilmer says, I got offered $40 million to do Batman 2, and I didn't want to waste my talent wearing a mask. And then he put on his mask for the robbery.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, Robert Rodriguez, Selma Hayek. God, she's just like stunningly beautiful. You just want to stab yourself in the eyes and never look at anybody else. She is so smart. She like disarms you immediately because you're looking at her, and then the first thing she goes, how's your mom? Well, and you feel like such a rat. She asked me what I was doing for Thanksgiving. I said, my kid's mom takes them for Thanksgiving, so yeah, nothing really. And I'd like to invite you over to my house. This lady was so nice. Thought I was gonna be alone for Thanksgiving. I met her brother and a couple of her cousins, and we had a great dinner.
Con Air.
I loved Con Air. Con Air was probably one of the most strenuous movies I've ever been on in my life. Every wannabe tough guy in the movies on that plane, okay? Everything on Con Air was like a contest. I mean, if you spit, somebody would spit further, and then
2001, Bubble Boy.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
So 2010, Machete.
I mean, you've been in 100 movies by this point, but is this the first one where you're like, this is my movie?
Robert De Niro was on it. I ran into him between two trailers, and I'm looking at him, and he goes, you, hey, number one. And number one on the call sheet means it's your movie, right? I'm trying to figure out what to say. I said, could I get you some coffee, Mr. De Niro?
Do you know how many acting credits you have listed on IMDb?
I know what, about 300?
353. There's so many titles, so many movies. We won't get to them all, but I did think we'd play a little game. I'm gonna list 3 movie titles. Some of them are real movies you've been in, some of them are fake. Can you tell me what the fake one is? 5 Bloody Knuckles, The Contractor, Breaking Wind.
5 Bloody Knuckles, I didn't do that.
You're right, that's fake, that's fake. Zombie Hunter, The Knife and the Boy, Sushi Girl.
The Knife and the Boy.
Fake, yeah, that's right, that's right. Vengeance, 7 Mummies, Encino Pool Party.
Encino Pool Party.
You're right. That's a fake. Heavy Bag, The Driveway, Psycho Killer.
I don't remember any of them.
They're all fake.
Hey, get on.
What's it like looking back on all your movies and realizing how far you've come?
I think being a glorified extra for so long and being with the troops didn't set me apart from what it's all about. I mean, a lot of people have become stars immediately, and it's like they forget that it's a job for a lot of people and it's work, and, you know, we're supporting families and stuff. That was me. I just went through my IMDb, and it only took a few minutes.
Funny or Die has taken over in time. And now, FOD TV News.
Some jumped on the roof of my car and now the stereo isn't working. We hit the streets to ask, how should I pass the time on my drive to Phoenix?
Wait, somebody jumped on the roof of his car? How would that affect his stereo?
The stereo's like nowhere near the roof of the car. Like, I don't know where. I don't get it.
I guess podcasts like that you play out loud on your phone. I don't know.
Hey, I'm Ron Howard, and we're gonna go through my IMDb page. How long are we gonna be here?
It's gonna take a minute, just a minute. A lot of people, you know, especially today, they think of you as a director. Let's start off going through the acting credits.
Okay.
And do you know your first acting credit on IMDb?
It might be Frontier Woman.
That's correct. 1956, you were 2 years old.
Well, Frontier Woman was this grade C Western. My dad was cast as the bad guy. They needed a crying baby. So they rolled the cameras and they gave me this little tomahawk toy and then like yanked it away. It made me cry. Funny how that'll work.
You know, while we're talking about acting, we made some hats over here.
Oh yeah, we have, well, I wear hats. I wear multiple hats. Okay. It still fits. I haven't done any acting in a while, and yet the actor hat fits.
The Journey, 1959.
When I did the audition, in order to prepare for that screen test, my dad got a buddy of his and sort of pretend to have like a camera or something. And then another guy came over and hung a tin can on a string and held it over my head and was like shaking it. And then I would learn to do the scene and not be distracted by all that stuff. So it's a little bit like Tiger Woods' dad yelling at him on the backswing.
You did an episode of Lassie.
Lassie was no longer living with a family. Lassie was freely roaming the United States of America, solving different people's problems from week to week.
Wait, that's what the plot of
Yeah, it
Lassie
became like
turned
Route
into?
66. She was a drifter. They made the show so fast. They just did one take. And if you got the lines out, they moved on. It really didn't matter. I had one emotional scene. I'm standing here and I'm holding Lassie. I gotta sort of cry, my horse, oh God. Cut, print. Oh God, that was so fake. I said, sir, please, I know I can do better. Just let me have one more take. No, kid, we got it. Now I'm thinking, the way it's been staged, I happen to have my hand on Lassie's collar. So what's the next shot? It's a close-up of Lassie. I'll just kind of like tense up with my hand a little bit and sell the emotion. But all of a sudden I hear this bellowing, cut! Cut! The director comes running up to me and he said, don't you ever fucking try to steal Lassie's close-up again. Now let's do another one and keep your hand still. So that was the only helpful direction I got on that little shoot.
I have a question about Music Man. Can you finish this line?
Sister, isn't this the most scuntious solid gold thing we ever saw?
I never thought I'd ever see anything as scrumptious as this solid gold thing. Oh, sister.
Nailed it.
You know what? It takes a lot of work to get a 6-year-old kid to remember a line like that. So I think I must have gone over that one about 1,000 times.
American Graffiti. That was your first time meeting George Lucas.
In those days, he was really, really quiet. And he was so tired and so exhausted trying to make this complicated, ambitious movie all in nights. And he was editing during the day. He actually sort of said action, and the scene was over. Everybody looked around, waiting for George to say cut. The poor guy, he'd literally fallen asleep watching the take. We all lived at this Holiday Inn. Paul Lamat and Harrison Ford were kind of rowdy guys. Paul and Harrison probably had never really stopped drinking beers from Saturday night. Laughing, telling stories. I was laughing with them. And suddenly, they just start pitching bottles into the parking lot. I look up and they're out on the balconies, and Harrison yells down, "Dance, Opie, dance!" And he starts firing beer bottles down there, and I'm bobbing and weaving out of there, and they never hit me, but they were certainly laughing their asses off.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto was my first directing opportunity.
That's both hats.
Well, yeah, it's both hats. You know, let's just do this. Whoop. Whoop. And that's kind of the way I felt. Only time I've ever done that, and probably the only time I ever will. And I pitched a lot of ideas to Roger Corman. Sci-fi idea, a noir. He heard them all and he said, "Ron, when we were testing titles, we had wonderful success with Grand Theft Auto. If you can fashion a car crash comedy starring yourself that we can correctly entitle Grand Theft Auto, that's a picture I would want to make." So about 36 hours later, I had an outline for a movie we could call Grand Theft Auto.
And now, FOD TV News.
By now, we've all heard about the latest political scandal rocking Capitol Hill. But before we hit the streets for comment, we invited investigative journalist Chip Rutgers on to share insider insight. Chip, don't hold our feet to the flame here. What's going on?
I think the phrase is actually hold your feet to the fire.
What'd I say?
Flame.
Yes, I think that's right.
Pretty sure it's fire. Also, you didn't use the phrase correctly anyway.
Well, they're synonyms, so I think either works. And last I checked, this is America, and you can use any phrase any way you want to mean anything. Final thoughts?
I disagree.
Thanks for your time, Chip. I'm being told now that we actually cannot go to a street segment because our camera operator got homesick and had to call his mom to come pick him up. You kidding me with this?
Then we have Splash.
We couldn't get that movie made. There was a competing mermaid movie. It was supposed to star Warren Beatty. Jessica Lange was going to be the mermaid. We couldn't get any studio to say yes. Finally, Disney said yes. That terrified me. They'd never made anything that wasn't a G movie. I can cover her breasts with hair. I can make sure that she's mostly covered, but you know, it has to feel organic and real, and she's of the sea. It won't be sexy otherwise. They had to invent the division Touchstone, and we were their first PG movie.
88 Willow.
What an adventure making it. My favorite scenes were in the Nelwyn Village. In order to shoot this, it was the biggest collection of little people aggregated for a movie since Wizard of Oz. Culturally, those people are partiers. On the day when we had like the biggest collection, I walked by for lunch and I saw this citron and it was kind of rocking. And I thought, wow, they're doing it in there. Somebody's there, there's a couple in there that they don't, instead of eating lunch, that's what they're doing. Okay, God bless them. And I came back and it was like a clown car. I'm telling you, it was an orgy.
Wow.
It was great.
You know, IMDb also lists traits for everyone.
Right.
And if you could read us your IMDb traits and let us know what you think of them.
Recorded final cut on all his feature films. Well, nowadays, yes. George Lucas was the first one to give me final cut on Willow. Frequently cast brother Clint in supporting roles, as frequently as I possibly can. I love directing my brother Clint. I haven't given away very much as it relates to Solo, but when I let slip that Clint Howard had a pretty nice little cameo, the fans were pleased. They won't be disappointed. Known for making films based on real-life events. Well, sometimes, but I learned the lesson on Apollo 13, which was the first movie that I did based on real events. We were doing preview screenings. Not a lot of people knew about the story of Apollo 13. People really enjoyed the movie. There was one poor, you know, people rate it, excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. Just didn't like it. No, hated it. I flipped the page over and it said, please comment on the ending. Terrible. More Hollywood bullshit. They would never survive. And I realized, of course, that to him it was corny because he had no idea it was based on a true story.
Do you know your top grossing movie and lowest grossing movie?
That would be The Grinch.
Yeah.
Lowest grossing movie, probably Frost Nixon, I would think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's such a good movie.
Well, I'm so proud of that movie. It was nominated for, 5 or 6 Academy Awards, including me as director. The movies take on a life of their own, and they find their audience.
You're the narrator on Arrested Development.
That I am. I had this sort of aesthetic that was sort of born out of the internet and reality television, more unexpected, a little more like The Simpsons. Dense, use narration, use flashbacks, jump around. We had discussed narration, would we have it, would we not have it, and then Mitch thought, would you just lay down a temp track? Sure. Mitch called me back and he said, well, the show tested really well. The narrator was the highest testing element. They'd like to pick it up. You have to do the series. So I signed on.
I believe you're in a Jamie Foxx music video.
Blame it on the alcohol. Hype Williams is directing. There's this scene where myself, Jake Gyllenhaal, Forrest Whitaker, we're driving up in this Rolls Royce. I think I scared the director a little bit because he sort of said, now Ron, when you come into this, we want you to have your party face on. I want some clarification because, my party face is, hey guys, how are you? No. As we're driving up and the cameras are rolling and no smiling, Ron. 3, no smiling, Ron. 2, Ron, no smiling, and Ron, no smiling. Action. They just didn't trust me.
All right, now we're coming up on a big one. But before I get there, what's the deal with these master classes? I see so many ads for these master classes, and then I see you in one, and I said, I'm finally gonna find out what these are.
They're very legitimate opportunities and attempts to give these people who've dedicated their lives to a particular discipline to share what they know.
Let's talk about Solo, I guess.
Okay.
When you're about to go do this movie, do you call George Lucas?
I did. He basically said, follow your instinct. Don't worry about rules. He had produced Willow. He knew that I had kind of an affinity for that kind of fantasy adventure that's also character-driven. JJ did such a great job, and Rogue One was an interesting experiment. To me, that's opened up a channel, an invitation. I wish more directors could have the opportunity to be directing a scene that includes Chewbacca and be able to say, hey, great job, and then have Chewbacca pick you up and hug you. More people should have that. That's love of a director. My wife Cheryl has to, she's the good luck charm. I put her in one scene that I was sure I would never edit out. We did edit out her scene. I turned around to the people at ILM and I said, it's hard for me to cut that scene out because she's my good luck charm. And they said, we'll green screen her in. We shot a plate and the magicians of ILM made sure that the good luck charm is in a scene. I hope fans get as much enjoyment out of it as I've had making it. I can tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
It comes out May 25th. That's a long frickin' IMDb list. I ain't done yet though. Onward and upward.